What is going on, everybody? And on here, and tonight we're going to talk about a little bit of a higher level topic. And by the title of this, you should realize that, you know, I am talking about not regular rip and ships, not selling packs at an LGS to kids, not Pokemon selling packs for $5 when you get $1.50 worth of cards in the pack. I am talking about this new revolution that is digital rips, where the card doesn't exist. You can theoretically choose to get the card delivered, or they offer you a fraction of the value instead of sending you the card. So I want to talk about this because this is where the industry gets batshit crazy. And this is where every mania in the history of the world falls apart, because this is where it gets fucked up when people get too greedy. So let's start by just looking at the overall TCG industry. And this is, I just did a quick Google here. And this is the digital portion of the market here. Going from just under $1 billion this year to potentially 2.64 in 2035. But I want to talk about this one here because this is where the numbers get batshit crazy. So the overall TCG market, $14 billion in 2026, 9.5% compound annual growth rate over the next 10 years, which is astronomically batshit crazy compared to many other things. $34 billion of value by 2035. Now, obviously, that growth isn't going to come necessarily from new games, from higher print runs, from higher demand, from higher prices. It's coming from a multitude of different drivers and different ways for the general public to participate in the game that they want, in a hobby that they like. The downside to this is, as things get batshit crazy, there is more and more money chasing this stuff. There's more than enough YouTubers talking about how private equity, blah, 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 which not quite a thing yet. Maybe some little tiny family offices or folks with, 25 million here, 50 million there. Doesn't really move the needle. But with the advent of Kalshi and all of these futures markets, which is really just a legal way of getting around gambling laws, at least as of right now. Now, I guess some of them are banned in the US, but either way, we have, and those companies are valued at astronomically insane numbers. We have the industry of trading cards. So if you're looking at ways to put institutional funds to use in the trading card market, you could buy a game manufacturer. That fucking sucks, right? There's risk. You got to chop wood every set. There's a lot of things to do. You're probably not buying WotC, although somebody should buy Hasbro. I don't know why somebody hasn't. Just kind of throw the garbage business away and you keep the good one. Obviously, rates where they are, not super conducive to that, especially the current valuation. You could buy the printers, which are okay. But you're only going to make a fixed amount of margin, and you might grow 5, 6, 7% a year. Not super sexy. You can build an LGS if you're absolutely fucking insane, and you want to hire folks that aren't super motivated in life, who like to work at game stores. No offense to those of you out there who work at game stores, own game stores. But generally speaking, folks that work in game stores are not the most motivated people setting the world on fire in the world. Or you could get into the rip and ship market. Now, really, really smart people realize very early on that rip and shipping it's a non-scalable business. And if you're doing it to make extra money on the side, as a side hustle, whatever, it's absolutely fantastic because it's cash money right now. It doesn't take a whole lot of skill to do. And as long as you have a little bit of a personality on screen or on stream, or boobs, if you will, however you want to sell yourself, there is an unlimited flow of customers, more than you can ever service, I guess, is the right term, because your hands only move so fast. Now, there's groups that aggregate rip and shippers, and they have 10 rip and shippers, 20, 30, 40, 50. That gets into its own issues where the margins for rip and shipping aren't great, 10%, 15%, 20%, depending on where you can buy the stock for. The problem is you have a finite supply of product. You always have to find more. And the bigger you get, the faster you're burning through inventory. And as most of you know, the inventory of physical Pokemon cards right now is a motherfucker to get a hold of. Now, there's a million different cash out servers where, folks are buying through different botters, using that as a way to source product for their business, their rip and ships, etc. So that's a thing. But again, you're chopping wood every day to feed an engine that's just burning through fuel. So that brings us to our new topic, which are digital rips. People are like, you know what? Fuck the physical cards. That's really too hard. Fuck the people who have to open the cards, because that's too hard as well. Shipping the cards, you can have mistakes and errors. There's cost there. I know most customers pay for it for traditional rip and ships. But you also have theft. People steal product disappears. It gets stolen by UPS, USPS, FedEx, whomever. All of those risks in a digital rip and ship go away. You can set the odds to pretty much whatever you want. If you want to pay out 60% of expected value over a long period of time, similar to a slot machine at a casino, you can program it to do that. If you want to pay out 20%, you can do that. If you want to make sure certain people hit early on in a stream, if there's a lot of people, you can do that. And then everybody else after the fact are the ones that pay the piper for the hits early on. You can set that up any way you want to. There's no regulation. There's no anything. So I have a good friend of mine who used to work for one of the casinos in their audit group. This was a decade ago. And it was right in the middle of when, a little bit of an anecdote here, right in the middle of when online poker was a big thing. It was before most states legalized gambling. But with online poker, as you can imagine, the regulators initially didn't get too heavily into it, but then they were up everybody's backside, right? And they wanted to test the algorithm and the random number generator and all this. And every quarter when the regulators came in, everything passed with flying colors. The second the regulators left, I think all bets were off. And he told me one time, he's like, hey, I would not play online poker. I've seen the code. I've seen the holes in the code. Just stay away, because you don't know what you don't know. And if that's the way it works in a highly regulated industry, and, again, these are casinos, they have historically more money than God. Not saying that any of the regulators aren't doing things by the book, but that is a highly structured, regulated industry. Fast forward to digital rip and ships for fucking Pokemon cards. There ain't a goddamn person in Congress who gives a shit. They can't find enough people who care about PSA to push that, whatever you want to call it, pseudo monopoly, whatever you want to call it, because again, people just don't give a shit. The general public doesn't care. It's such a little, pimple on the ass of constituents. They don't give a shit. Nobody cares about this. It is completely unregulated. It's probably never going to be regulated. And let's just talk about the industry in general. So, we talked about the overall market. And again, when you're talking 30-some billion dollars of market cap, you don't need a big piece to start making $50 million, $100 million, $250 million. You're talking big boy dollars very, very quickly. So if we look at GameStop's Q1 earnings, I didn't realize they haven't done earnings calls in Carolina scored. Look at that. Sorry, Vegas fans. I guess they stopped doing earnings calls a couple years ago, which is good because the CEO on camera is a fucking idiot. Anyway, so GameStop reported blah, blah, blah. The revenue and the margin is up because of collectibles. 100% collectibles. And I think most of you guys realize they now do these power packs. and they continue to push the envelope on the power packs, which are based on initially supposedly real physical cards that they have in stock. However, that doesn't necessarily mean they have them in stock. And as there's more and more money that gets behind these platforms, I mean, GameStop is literally the most visible one out there because they're public. But if you just take a look here, and this was just a quick search, I don't even know who half these guys are. Pullbox, Arena Club, Box GG. I know there's a bunch of people in Discord that sell cards to these guys. These guys are doing it the stupid way. They're actually, looks like they're doing it the legitimate way where they actually have the cards. So, there's a million of these things. Rips by Trump. That's rips by Trump. I was cracking up. GameStop Power Packs. So there's a million of these things popping up. And here's the problem. And it didn't click until the other day when somebody was telling me that they're in this. So, or one of the issues they had. So here's the problem. The problem is you're taking a physical asset that has a finite population. The Pokemon company, and we'll use Pokemon. You can talk Magic, you can talk sports, you can talk whatever you want, but Pokemon we'll use that as an example for the video. You have a finite supply of product. You have a massive amount of demand, and you have a massive amount of cash backing these large digital pack rips. So the logical next step is, the first step is, okay, let's get all these slabs. We can make sure that we program the back end to make sure we have things, and when people win them, they ship them out. And I think most of these guys took them about 5 seconds to realize that's the most fucking inefficient business model of all time. Like, there's just no way to buy that many cards. I know a lot of folks who do traditional rip and ships, and they'll do mystery bags and things like that. Actually got a really cool one from Mason Cardinal Games. I know he's been pushing on the channel. I think it's a lot of fun. Ace or whatever. You should probably check it out if that's something that interests you. But especially since, they were probably packed 4 months ago, 5 months ago, the value of the cards inside has probably doubled or tripled since then. Pro tip. Yeah, just saying. But they've now gone from, okay, well, we need to have these cards to we can't get the cards anymore. You guys have all seen what's going on with PSA. They have 9 months of backlog, 10 million cards, whatever fucking bullshit number they're throwing out there. They're not grading any more cards. So there's a massive backlog of these slabs. The folks that are doing the legitimate physical rip and ships, they can't get enough cards. You go to any one of these card shows, you see people just going in and swooping slabs from tables like it's fucking Target. And they just got restocked with Ascended Heroes or Prismatic Evolutions or insert any Pokemon game whatsoever. So what these companies did was they created the digital rip and ship, which is nothing more than a synthetic asset. They're selling pictures of cards that they may or may not have. And this is where I started cracking up because somebody in Discord had mentioned that they were through one of these and they hit a card. And the instant that they hit the card, mind you, it's probably programmed where they're paying out 60 cents on the dollar on a good day, maybe 50 cents on the dollar. So they're absolutely fucking printing money with, the folks that have gambling addictions that like doing this stuff. So they got a pop-up said, do you want to redeem the card? Fuck yeah, man. Send it over. What do you want to ship it? Well, we're sorry. It's out of stock. Would you like to wait for it to come back in stock? We don't know when it's going to come back in stock. It may never go back in stock, but it's going to sit in your account. And, one day over the rainbow, you might get the card in, or we'll give you 75 cents on the dollar. So he's like, what the fuck? So I just won this card. You guys don't even fucking have the card. You're representing that you have this card, but you don't. So not only are you taking a 40 or 50% rip up front, now you want to charge me 25% off market because you don't have the fucking card that I wanted to begin with. This is the ultimate grift. And there's so much profit and so much money in this because you're no longer limited to how quickly you can rip packs. You just click a button, right? You're no longer limited to one at a time. You can have folks clicking this shit all over the fucking place on the platform, whether you have an MC on the mic or it's just somebody just mindlessly clicking shit, like they're playing fucking Wordle on their phone. It is infinitely more efficient from a cash generation perspective on the business side. Here's the problem. At some point, the music stops. And either people just stop buying from them, or you have a massive amount of artificial demand of cards that don't exist that at some point need to get redeemed. Now, do I think any of these companies are going to spend one iota of effort to go out and get these cards to give to the folks that paid money and won them? No fucking way. The first thing they're going to do is fuck them all and just be like, yeah, you know what? We don't have it. Here's your money back. Go fuck yourself. Because that's the way this world works. That's the way it works in every single one of these bubbles. So we have a synthetic population of Pokemon cards that are being sold, bartered, gambled on a daily basis that is theoretically pegged to the value of the physical cards. But there is a loose requirement for redemption that I don't know what's going to happen. I don't see any way that regulators ever get involved in this, but there's, again, so much money in this thing. There's going to be more and more of these digital pack rips showing up. And it's going to get to the point where, with the shortage of slabs, these guys are going to say, fuck it. They're going to keep selling these. And it's going to come to the point where they might have 5% of the cards. They might have 3% of the cards, but it doesn't make any sense to stop, because even if you get fined, you're making so much money. It's just a cost of doing business. It's like running a bank. And again, nobody's putting eyes on the algorithm. You can disclose whatever you want. It doesn't mean that's what the programmer really says. And 99 times out of 100, the folks writing those don't know what the code says anyway. So they're just writing based on one of the programmers is telling us happen. So it's a fascinating world that we live in, because if theoretically all these cards had to be redeemed, it would be the biggest fucking short squeeze in the history, because everybody would be rushing to buy these cards and they just wouldn't exist, and the value of the cards would go straight up. I don't really see a scenario where that happens. What I do see is all of these digital rip and ships end up burning to the ground because they're selling cards they don't have. They're fucking people over, giving them 75 cents on the dollar. And ultimately, the industry, at least as part of the industry, implodes on itself. Everybody goes back to physical rip and ships, and the amount of physical product getting churned down increases even more going into the future. So anyway, I thought this was interesting. I wanted to talk about it because it's really something that I haven't heard a whole lot of folks talk about, other than some YouTubers saying, I'm doing digital rips. Here you go. Come and fucking pay me, whatever. Which is fine. I respect the hustle. But anyway, that's all I got. So like the video, subscribe channel, join the Discord, and don't buy digital rips. You're lighting fucking money on fire.